He wanted to know everything about me, where I came from, what my life had been like.
And the only downside I'll say of Usha is I asked the convention planners, I said, what about having my wife introduce me before my speech? I'm not making that mistake ever again.
Everyone thought they knew Usha Vance until the day she broke down on live television. The camera caught her rising, pale and trembling, her eyes alight with something far deeper than grief. In a moment of sheer defiance, she tore off her lapel pin and delivered words so explosive they reverberated across the country. What unbearable truth finally shattered the composed facade of the Second Lady? And what did she declare that will forever alter the course of American politics? Join us as we reveal the story behind Usha Vance's tearful resignation and the question that changed everything.
That JD and I could meet at all, let alone fall in love and marry, is a testament to this great country.
When Usha Vance reached her breaking point. For months, Usha Vance had appeared unshakable, never betraying a flicker of doubt or pain despite relentless scrutiny of her background, her loyalty, even her very place in American politics. Yet on that Tuesday afternoon, everything changed. The rally began as usual, security stationed at the exits, reporters poised with pens, and JD Vance under the harsh lights, navy tie impeccably straight, posture rigid, firing off rehearsed answers. No one could have predicted what came next. Margaret Calloway, a 78-year-old Vietnam War nurse with 3 Bronze Stars, rose from the third row. The microphone trembled in her hands as she spoke a question so piercing it silenced the room. JD's composure cracked, eyes widening, shoulders tensing, knuckles whitening on the table. 8 seconds of stunned stillness followed. Then came the soft scrape of Usha's chair. She wasn't scheduled to speak. In fact, she never did. But now she walked forward, each step measured. Behavioral analysts later noted every detail. The steadying of her breath, the squaring of her shoulders, the unwavering focus in her eyes. This was no breakdown. It was resolve. The auditorium fell into an almost surreal hush, so profound that technicians later swore they picked up her heartbeat on the lapel mic as she lifted it from her husband. Viewership spiked 43% as people texted friends to tune in. For 3 minutes and 27 seconds, Usha spoke, uninterrupted. Network executives held their nerve, even through the scheduled commercial break. What she said wasn't fueled by rage or blame, but by raw, unfiltered truth. The cost of staying silent while being systematically erased from the story she once believed in. Only when she finished did tears fall, not of defeat, but of liberation. By evening, social media was aflame with support and outrage. Political fault lines deepened, dinner table arguments ignited, and a national reckoning began. But in that moment, flashbulbs popping, cameras rolling, Usha Vance stood simply as a woman reclaiming her dignity. And the question on everyone's mind, was it all carefully orchestrated? The resignation. As Usha Vance gripped the microphone, knuckles white, the world watched her metamorphosis. Gone was the impeccably polished political spouse who'd stood quietly behind her husband for months. In her place stood a woman pushed to her breaking point. Across America, networks cut to extended live coverage as control rooms erupted in chaos. Producers barking orders to stay on feed, the Trump administration's communications team furiously texting updates. Yet Usha spoke with calm authority, her eyes betraying the fire beneath. He was then, as now, the most interesting person I know, she declared, addressing not just the crowd but millions at home. Her candid words sliced through the usual political doublespeak. This was unvarnished truth in a world built on spin. Within seconds, her name trended nationwide. Within minutes, it was global. Traders even noted a brief market dip as they scrambled to grasp the fallout. She made no personal attacks or partisan accusations. Instead, she spoke of identity and belonging, of living as an insider deemed forever foreign. The audience froze. Crisis response teams had no contingency for raw honesty. Then came her quietest act. Removing the tiny eagle lapel pin of her office, the soft click echoing like history in the making. JD Vance remained statuesque, jaw clenched as she stepped away. No protocol guided a vice presidential spouse's voluntary resignation. The last such departure dated to the 1800s and was due to death. Phones buzzed in Washington. The president paused mid-briefing. The planned Q&A was abruptly cancelled, and the campaign bus departed with only JD visible through tinted windows. Political operatives on both sides recognized a moment of seismic importance. Polls showed women across the spectrum resonating with her choice. For hours, even the most partisan anchors struggled to frame the story. This wasn't about red versus blue, it was about the essence of America itself. As dusk fell on the Naval Observatory, silent crowds gathered, not chanting slogans, but witnessing something larger than politics. Historians would later pinpoint this day as the start of a cultural shift, when a woman chose her humanity over her title, forcing a nation to look inward. And as her pin thudded onto the podium, war rooms nationwide raced to seize the narrative. Media frenzy unleashed. Usha Vance's resignation ignited an instantaneous media firestorm. Within minutes, news alerts buzzed on phones nationwide as cable networks abandoned their schedules. The stark contrast in coverage across channels laid bare America's polarization. On conservative outlets, Chiron graphics portrayed Usha as an embattled second lady, victimized by non-stop assaults. Slow-motion clips emphasized each tear, and commentators spoke in hushed tones about the relentless pressures on political spouses. Former White House aides appeared to attest that only a ruthless media engine could force such a departure. By prime time, pundits had honed a unified narrative, proof of the left's double standard on women of color, complete with the suddenly trending hashtag #StandWithUsha. In contrast, liberal networks framed the resignation as proof of a fractured administration. Analysts highlighted its timing, mere weeks after whispers of a rift between the president and vice president, and aired moments of J.D. Vance's visible discomfort or public snubs of Usha. Their on-screen banners asked, "White House in crisis. What did she know?" Meanwhile, the administration's belated 2-hour late statement rang hollow against rampant speculation. Social media teemed with conspiracy theories as inner circle factions, some urging distance, others demanding empathy, argued over the response. J.D. Vance, torn between political loyalty and marital devotion, stayed out of sight until a next-day statement that satisfied no one. From Washington, strategists to state governors, everyone scrambled to spin, criticize, or stay silent, while ordinary Americans began to unite in weary solidarity, pleading for respect for Usha's privacy and dignity. Relentless targeting of Usha. Vance. When J.D. Vance stepped into the national spotlight as Donald Trump's running mate, his wife Usha, an accomplished Yale-educated lawyer, became collateral damage in America's political warfare. What began as hushed online whispers about her heritage and loyalties quickly swelled into a tidal wave of personal attacks. Critics questioned how an Indian-American woman could represent an America First administration, weaponizing her every move. Speak, and they accused her of overreaching. Stay silent, and they labeled her secretive. Reporters and trolls alike dissected her attire, expressions, and even her family background, reducing her identity to a political cudgel. Despite a distinguished career rooted in American institutions, Usha's achievements were erased in favor of sensational rumors. Friends observed her once confident public persona shrink under the weight of constant scrutiny, turning even family gatherings into campaign spectacles. Whether she paused a legal case or supported her husband on the trail, her motives were twisted into evidence of divided loyalties. By the time J.D. Vance clinched the vice presidency, Usha had already been cast as a polarizing figure, her real story buried beneath a relentless barrage of political weaponization. What finally tipped her into action was the culmination of months of orchestrated attacks, a breaking point nobody saw coming, recasting the meaning of political allegiance. When Usha Vance unclasped her official lapel pin and laid it on the table, she did far more than resign her title as Second Lady. She smashed a time-honored political mandate: stand by your spouse at any cost. The catalyst was a viral video of J.D. Vance quipping that she must smile and applaud everything I say, no matter how absurd. A clip that racked up over 10 million views and crystallized months of public humiliations. A Yale-educated lawyer with a flourishing career before politics, Usha found herself reduced to little more than a prop in her husband's show. That one comment exposed the insidious dynamic behind the scenes. Her sole purpose was to validate his every word. Her act of defiance sent seismic ripples through Washington. For generations, political spouses were expected to smile for cameras, host charity galas, and never reveal discontent. By walking away, Usha rewrote those unspoken rules and forced the nation to confront the hidden cost of ambition. J.D. Vance, reportedly blindsided minutes before her decision, suddenly faced an unprecedented crisis: defend his wife and risk President Trump's wrath, or remain loyal to the administration and fracture his family. Every path carried severe consequences. Beyond the immediate drama, Usha's choice provoked a deeper reckoning. Is supporting a divisive administration ever worth sacrificing your dignity? For countless women married to public figures, her departure felt like a green light to set their own boundaries. Media reactions split predictably. Conservative outlets decried her as disloyal and uncommitted, while liberal publications lauded her courage in breaking free. Few, however, paused to see the person caught at the storm's centre. Across the country, women's groups invoked Usha's story to highlight the silent burdens borne by political spouses. Careers shelved, privacy surrendered, even personal values compromised in service to their partners. Her resignation didn't just alter her own life. It compelled America to redefine loyalty in politics. By refusing a role that undermined her identity, she demonstrated that even at the pinnacle of power, everyone has a breaking point. The empty seat beside the vice president now tells a story of real people making real sacrifices. The threat from within. It felt like more than political rhetoric when J.D. Vance stared into the camera and declared, "The threat I worry about most isn't Russia or China, it's the threat from within." Was he sounding an alarm for America or confessing his own unravelling? Seconds before his on-air collapse, that unsettling line sparked a storm of debate. Was it a self-aware gut punch or a veiled attack on his rivals? Up until that moment, it had been a run-of-the-mill press conference. Then, in one of the most astonishing outbursts in modern political history, the man once hailed as the GOP's intellectual heavyweight appeared vulnerable, confused, raw, and emotionally frayed. Was it burnout? A family crisis? A betrayal from within his own circle? Insiders whisper that it could be all three. Beneath Vance's composed, Yale-educated exterior lurked a perpetual tension. Colleagues say he was always in strategic mode, distrusting everyone and sizing up every move. The relentless pressure to embody both a working-class hero and the Trump whisperer left him running on empty. Behind closed doors, staff recall unpredictable mood swings and loyalty tests that read more like rites of initiation than normal workplace dynamics. He wasn't just building a career, he was forging a legend, and legends demand a price. Raised amid the decay of the Rust Belt, Vance never planned for politics. His rough childhood, an addicted mother, transient father figures, and a foul-mouthed grandmother became his brand. Hillbilly Elegy did more than tell his story. It crafted a mythology. Suddenly, Vance was real America incarnate. But how much of that narrative was authentic, and how much was tailored for power? Hollywood thrust him even further. Ron Howard's Netflix adaptation, Oprah interviews, cable news fascination. Yet Washington chewed him up just as quickly as Hollywood built him up. Critics slammed the film for oversimplifying poverty and glamorizing hardship. The moderate who once warned against Trump morphed into one of his staunchest allies, a pivot some called opportunistic. Vance's resume was impressive. Marine veteran, Yale law graduate, insider among future titans of business and government. Yet he never truly fit in. To voters, he was the bearded everyman. To DC insiders, a calculating strategist. Former aides describe a man consumed by mistrust and obsessed with loyalty tests, an obsession that may have hastened his undoing. His support for Trump deepened swiftly. After labeling him noxious, he became one of his most fervent backers, securing the former president's endorsement and a fast track to the Senate. But whispers in GOP halls asked, how many principles would he sacrifice next? At home, the pressure took its toll. His wife, Usha, a former Supreme Court clerk and Yale law classmate, loathed the limelight. She craved stability and purpose, not political theatre. Though she publicly supported him, friends say their private reality was fraught with tension, as Vance's views grew more polarizing. Image is everything in politics, and fragile. To the public, Vance posed as the outsider who swapped suits for boots. Behind the curtain, he was a shrewd player mapping every advantage. But no mask holds forever. As the cameras rolled, his practiced facade finally cracked. His theatrical soundbites, from railing against woke elites to dismissing Ukraine as a distraction, were crafted to provoke outrage. Yet with every tweet, his isolation in the Senate deepened, too erratic for mainstream Republicans, too extreme for Democrats, and even Silicon Valley bristled at his calls for tech regulation. Enemies piled up, and the bright horizon he once envisioned now looked startlingly dim. What will Usha Vance's stand mean for the future of political spouses in an era of relentless personal attacks? As the boundary between public service and private life fades, who will be willing to pay the true price of power? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out the next video on your screen.